Hello there, and welcome to another episode of World of Tanks with Ngani Titan. We're here on Overlord. I'm at the ST1, and it's a fairly predominantly tier 10 game. There's very few tier 8s on both sides, but it's mostly tier 10s. I'm in a tier 9 tank, however, the ST1's pretty strong tier 9 tank, and I wouldn't be particularly concerned about being in a tier 10 battle in the ST1. At the time I was playing with the Russian tanks, Overlord games at that point were a tendency to leave the eastern side of the map a bit lightly covered, and so this is one of the reasons I'm heading here towards the 8th line in a heavy tank. Normally I would think heavy tanks would be better off sort of on the southern side of that central field there at the top of the hill. However, on this particular occasion I thought that we were a bit on the light side on this side of the map, and there's also a good chance the tanks behind me would sort of stay well back, in which case they'd get involved a bit late in the action. So I'm going to come up here to the corner and cover this sunken road, or at least that is my initial thought on the matter. Now it does look like there's a medium and a heavy tank coming up to support me. There is a tank destroyer further back, but it depends on what the enemy does as to whether a tank destroyer in that location is going to get much utility out of the thing. In fact, he might get more targets attempting to cross the top of the sunken road there on my right than he would from what's in front of me. So we have an E100 and I bounced a shot off of him, and he fired at somebody else, I think, probably the medium, and he's now engaged with me and a Churchill, so we should be able to, and none of his allies are coming up to support him, so we should be able to get the better of this particular fight. So far I've fired 2, I think, and missed 2, and I've switched to the heat, and we've gotten a penetration straight away just there above the turret ring. Not exactly where I was pointing the gun at, but you know, we'll take the penetration anyway. He was pointing the gun more or less flat in my direction, so I had no problem there with penetration once we got a good contact on the turret front. He's pulled back, so I'm going to push forward, and as soon as I come around the corner he points the gun straight at me, which is a mistake unless he was ready to fire. He should have kept the turret angled, which would have minimised my chances of gaining a penetration. As it was, by pointing the turret straight at me, it makes it easy for me to put rounds into the turret cheeks. And I managed to do it again here. Now, object 268 is popping up there on my left, and that is going to be a cause of concern. Now, he had moved the turret a little bit there, so I didn't get the penetration, and the 268 pops up, and fortunately for me, he's not initially concerned about me, so I track him. Hopefully his gun is now pointed at somebody else, so there are tanks actually coming out of the ditch there behind me on my right, so he's got somebody to be playing with while he's tracked, and the E100 gets finished off, although I don't get the finishing shot. The 268 decides that there are better things to be doing, because this area is just collapsed, and he would be overrun. The T-34 hasn't much chance of escaping, and he's out of the fight. So the tank destroyer has been taken out, and we have more or less cleared the side of the map where it's straight through to the enemy's base area. However, I'm now kind of concerned because there aren't enough tanks visible on the beach to account, I think, for all the enemy tanks, so I thought there might be a few of them that have slipped through along the field here on my right. That's just that area there where the houses and the windmill and stuff is. But if they were there, that tank destroyer at the edge should probably have seen them, or the heavy tank that's just come over the embankment there in the central kind of field, and he hasn't seen them either, so there's probably just the T-10 and whatever else is there behind them. So I put a round into the engine deck of the T-10, set him on fire, and he burns quite nicely. and somebody else manages to finish him off. So we have an object 430 up against an E50, and he probably needs all the help he can get. So I put around at the E50, we followed up with a ram, and I'm just waiting for the reload. I was going for the turret, but I mistimed the firing, and he'd actually turned the turret, and I hit the corner, hit the angle of the turret, and the shot bounced. So now it's pretty much game over. There's only 5 enemy tanks left. One of them's here, Ferdinand. I decided I'm going to take the hit from the Ferdinand just to get the shot in. However, well, I mean, I could afford it in terms of hit points, but that has damaged my engine, which is going to really affect my ability to participate in the remainder of this game, because the 3 remaining tanks that are up there are pretty thoroughly surrounded by a large force of our team, with more coming on every second. That said, I'm making a reasonable speed even with a damaged engine. Although we're just doing 15 kilometers an hour now, it's really starting to slow down. I suppose as we were going faster at the start, we were damaging the engine further, and now the engine is pretty weak, and we're just barely making headway. So there is a T110E5, which I'm not going to see, is it? What's this? That's the T110E5, and I take that shot too hurriedly, bounce it up the upper front glacis, and I'm now waiting for the reload. So we put a shot in through the side, and we actually managed to get the finishing shot off. So we get 1 kill out of this with 18 damaging ribbons. Now a few of those are fire damage rather than penetrations, so the number's going to be high, but not as high as it might be if I got 18 penetrations. However, at 4,420 damage, I think it's the most I've done on this tank so far. We also picked up a sniper, which is pretty good from Russian tanks, and a confederate. I've always liked getting confederate medals, it always makes me feel I've contributed, and become number 1 by experience. So I hope you enjoyed the video, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you again soon.